Wow. Lisa Lampanelli with us, everybody. Come on, let's hear it for her. Lisa, you got some things coming on that I think years ago none of us would have believed, and that's that the Queen of Mean wants to help people.
I know. It's really incredible. Like when you hit a certain age, you're like, oh my God, standing up and cursing at people isn't fulfilling me completely.
Right.
So I might as well like do a little something on the side. But no, it's really exciting because I just feel like about 6 years ago after I got weight loss surgery and I lost 107 pounds and I kept it off 6 years. I'm like, I'm still working on it every day. So I like identify with the struggle that everybody in America seems to have about food and weight and body image stuff. I'm like, oh, let me do something to sort of help people. And you can still be funny and help people. That's my opinion.
Right. Well, you're going to be at the New York Comedy Festival doing your show, Losing It.
Yeah.
How is that different from the show that you used to do?
Well, you know, live stand-up is great. You stand up there, set up punchline, insult, insult, insult. This is more where you tell, oh my God, I just get moist saying it. Oh God, I miss it so much. No, but really, this is like a longer stories, but with punchlines also. This is what people don't understand. If you tell a story and you are entertaining, then it's still fun to do and to sit and hear. And also you can get little heartfelt messages in there without trying to force it. I really hate comics who end up getting all serious and suddenly they have a message. Mm-hmm. It's like sneak the message in. Right. I'm gonna trick people into liking themselves, which is gonna be, you know, a real challenge because everybody seems so full of self-hate and doubt that I'm like, okay, I can take this on. But I know that after working on this issue for so many years that I have a little sea hair of light to shine on the issue at large.
So at what point made you go in this direction? Did something happen? And
yeah, you know, my dad about 5 years ago, got sick. And I found that in helping take care of him with my brother and sister, nothing felt as good and fulfilling. So when he died, I was like, I don't have anything that fulfills me like that. It's really weird. Once you go from your whole life being consumed as a caretaker, you go, well, now my life kind of seems meaningless. So I said to my manager in classic LL fashion, I was like, I'm just going to retire. And she's like, okay, because she knows that's come up before. Usually it's in anger. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I was like, I'm retiring. She said, okay. Within 2 weeks, I was like, oh, I think I want to do a show about food and body image and stuff. And she goes, yeah, I knew you'd be back. So as long as it's something that kind of within me feels like I'm doing something for somebody else, I feel like my life's better.
But you had taken stand-up comedy right to the top. I mean, giant draw everywhere in the country, people showing up, loving you, but that still didn't
fill the hole. It's really weird. Everybody talks about, I mean, including like Howard Stern, they'll talk about that big hole that doesn't get filled. And I found the money, the whatever dopey fame I had, you know, any Radio City, Carnegie Hall, you'd still feel empty, or I'd still feel empty after. Some people, it's very fulfilling, and that's great. But boy, taking care of my dad, that made me feel like, oh, I'm full inside. And then after that, I was like, well, then I guess I got to help folks, so let's do this. And again, don't worry. You're not going to see me wandering around in a dashiki saying namaste and all that crap. I'm not big on omses and all that. And I'm like, you know, I think with humor, you can still help people, but have a little bit of a point that you sneak in on them.
But when you're talking about that empty place, that's what we thought the American dream was going to fill up for us.
Sure.
And I literally feel like we have a president who's taken that as far as he can in terms of success and battling and all. Mm-hmm. And you can see the same thing you're talking about, I think, in him.
Yeah, well, there's a hole, I think, in everybody, and we all just try to fill it with the wrong stuff. For years, it was relationships with me. For years, for me, it was food, and then it was possessions and things. And how many purses and shoes does one need? I mean, it's really funny. A few years ago, I just sold it all off. I was like, you know what do I need this for? I don't need to show off. And yes, I look like a reject from Hot Topic right now, but I don't care. This look was very slamming in the 90s, so learn about it, which none of these people were born in the 90s, okay? But isn't it funny how once you don't need it, you realize it's not going to fill you up, you don't need it anymore.
Well, you don't think being on Instagram with stacks of cash showing it off and a gold chain,
I'm kind of a baller in my own right.
Yeah.
I feel I am.
Yeah.
It's funny because like inside when you feel good about yourself, you don't need to put, that stuff out there. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I think it was Oprah who said, the more somebody demands respect, the less they really feel like they deserve it. So I remember in the old days, like when I didn't feel respected of myself, I didn't like who I was, I'd be like at the hotel being like, why am I being treated this way? And my room's supposed to be ready early. And now I'm like, hi, Super 8. Like, who cares? It's a freaking room.
Yeah.
You got a bed, sleep in it. That the whole thing is you can't fill that up with that stuff. So in here, what fills me up right now, family, friends. My mom just turned 89. We do game night once a week and kind of doing these shows and the workshops I'm doing.
Now, the workshop, that's the day before you're doing the New York Comedy Festival.
Yeah, I took this course on how to develop transformational workshops, which means if you go to a retreat center, place like this, there's people helping you work on your issues. So now that Lisa Lampanelli, life coach, is in effect, I am basically... me and a spiritual healing arts pro are trying to bring a message of sort of peace and self-love when it comes to food and body image. So those workshops are just meant to kind of help people go deeper internally to see why they eat, why they starve themselves, why they look at themselves in the mirror and don't like what they see. I mean, I hope everybody after a workshop I give is definitely more in love with what they see in the mirror. I see some women walking around that should feel like the top of the world and they find something to pick on, and it's so sad to me. Because look at me. I'm looking in the mirror now going, I am nailing it, and I'm 57 freaking years old. It's about time. This is what I wish for every person out there, that they could look in the mirror and go, I like myself.
Well, most women, I think, they either think they're too heavy or too thin.
Yep.
So there's no win.
Right.
There's no win.
It's a black or white. We hate ourselves or we pretend to love ourselves. I just like being in that gray area of like, I'm not going to be the best at anything. I'm not going to be the worst at anything. I'm fine. My shrink once said to me, you're enough. And that's a hard concept for somebody who's so driven to get in their head. And I kind of think I'm enough.
Well, what makes a good workshop? If these people come in together, you haven't met these people before, right?
Right.
And almost immediately you're looking to find some kind of a safe place.
Yeah, well, what you have to do as a workshop leader is create safe space so people can share their story. Because someone once said to share it is to shift it. So if you can share that you don't like yourself, that you eat emotionally, that you use food as something other than just nourishment and that it's a companion, you want to know that you are safe to say these things. So I share my story. I mean, I'm an open book. I always told my publicist, you are the luckiest bitch in the world because nothing ever is going to come out about me that I haven't already said.
Right.
So I share my story and then they feel like they can share a little more of themselves and then we can work on the issue together.
You bring that up about yourself, and I remember that big TMZ story where you laid out the guy, the heckler.
That was fun.
And everybody was calling it a meltdown. But then the next day you're on going, hey, that was fantastic.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, because here's what had happened. It was right when the Me Too movement was getting really started. And I had a real hot button about somebody. I've always had a hot button about being told to shut up. I've never had a father who told me to shut up. My father was a gentleman. My brother's a gentleman. My boyfriends have always been nice. I've never been told to shut up. And the guy told me to shut up. And I was like, but you just paid to see me, mother effer.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Go F yourself. And then he's like, I'll pay you to shut up. I'm like, okay, I'll take your money. What am I, stupid?
Right.
So he gives me $20 and I think of the thing. I go, should I give it back? Should I rip it up? Or is that wasteful? I should have done a whole publicity thing, stuck it in my pocket and said, I'm giving this to the Me Too movement, but I'm not that smart. So instead, I threw it in his face and it makes TMZ. To me, I just have a hot button. We all have them. There's little triggers telling me to shut up. I don't know what my other triggers are now, but I'm sure I have them.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure someone in this audience can find out.
Yeah.
But no, that's the thing. It's like we're all just works in progress. And I don't trust these performers or workshop leaders or gurus or anyone else who say their issues are all worked out. We're all works in progress, and I think everybody should know that.
So you basically still are saying you have to work on yourself every day. You haven't
Oh, yeah.
met any kind of criteria where it got easy.
No. I think to keep weight off, everybody can lose weight. The hardest thing is to keep it off. And every single day, like even in this, it's so funny because even in this green room back here, I walk in, there's every effing kind of chip in the world. There's every Hershey Kiss, which is my freaking weakness. And I'm like, am I hungry or am I emotionally hungry? And I'm like, oh, Christ, I'm not physically hungry, so I'm not going to eat it. That being said, I operate on the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, I'm good. I'm healthy. 20%, I'm like, guess what? I'm eating. Because I cannot stand, if you show up at a birthday party and you don't eat cake, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Right.
Like, I'll buy a gluten allergy, I'll buy your celiac bullshit. But let me tell you right now, you got to be able to celebrate. And sometimes celebration involves food and whatever else you take in moderation. I can't stand if somebody says to me, let's celebrate with a nice walk. I'm like, you're dead to me. I'll shoot you in the fucking head. That's just me. I don't like being told to move. That's how I am.
So exercise doesn't play into your game at all?
Well, you know what's funny?
No.
I exercised for about 2 years after the surgery. My nieces and nephews said they wanted to run this Thanksgiving Day race. The little shits tell me it's 5K. Ends up at 5 miles. That's a lot of difference for those of you who speak metrically. Well, I trained for that damn race. I came in last. I didn't give a shit because I look cute coming across the finish line. But then once I fulfilled my desire to be with them on that race, I go, it doesn't make me feel good. There's something about exercise that I do not connect with at the moment. Can that change? Yes, but I'm a work in progress. Again, it's all doing what we're ready for. I'm working on the food and still kind of nailing it, but that's still a part of it that hasn't come in yet for me.
You know what's interesting? I know a lot of people who've had the surgery and only a couple of people who kept the weight off.
Yeah.
And everybody thought the surgery was going to be the answer.
Well, that's the thing. They don't work on themselves emotionally. Either that or they just have another block. And the doctor warned me and my ex-husband who got the surgery also, he's like, you guys got to do emotional work. You got to do physical work. You got to get your head around that this is a tool. This is not a fail-safe. This is not a guarantee. And so ever since, before the surgery, I've been going to the shrink trying to figure out these things. And again, it's not, there's no quick fix to anything. That's what kills me. And I always say, if Oprah, the most powerful woman in the world, is still working on her food, what hope does Pam from accounting have?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really hard issue.
Right.
I bet no one in here knows anyone who doesn't have food issues. And if they don't, then they're a freaking drunk. I'm just saying.
Yeah. LisaLampanelli.com is where you can go to find out about your workshops and your stand-up.
Yeah.
And you, like I said before, nobody saw this coming for you.
Yeah.
As particularly when you were the queen of mean. But going back and looking at your life, knowing that you said that your parents, you grew up in a loving place, an accepting place. So what was it? What was it that...
I think the reason I have food issues is that my parents did, and they role modeled it. My father was an undereater. My mother's an overeater. Also, I take many of these workshops myself at these various retreat places, and you hear these poor people going, my father said I was a piece of garbage. My mother said I was horrible. And I'm going, my parents never did that. They never overpraised or underpraised. And then I figured out why I'm effed up is that they role modeled that they didn't like themselves. And I found that very sad. Because if you observe someone who treats themselves badly, they would never spend money on themselves. They would never eat correctly. And it was very sad to me because they deserved it. They're great people. So now I tell my mother, treat yourself. You're 89. Are you kidding me? Like enjoy a night out and enjoy going out to dinner. Have the 3 jelly donuts, for God's sake. Something else is going to kill you if this hasn't killed you yet. So I think that's what happens is we watch people we grow up with and we just kind of take it on.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I think, is neighborhood, too. I mean, people don't realize that, we send these kids, we create a safe place, and then we send them out into the world, and the world can be pretty rough.
Hey, that's what I know for a fact after a lot of therapy. That's why I never had kids. I was so scared I couldn't handle if something happened to them. And now even I'm so obsessed with my dog not dying that I literally, when he has to get babysat, I tell them he hates going outside because I want them to keep him inside. Well, he's little, he pees on the pads,
right.
you know. I'm not gonna like have a Great Dane shitting on the carpet.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't want Parker to die.
Yeah.
And it's really strange opening your heart to an animal and going, oh, imagine how I'd be with a kid. I'd be the biggest yenta in the world.
But also, when that connection to that dog and knowing that it's dependent on you,
He's a good boy.
Yeah.
And I turn into a total, like, that's how I turn into at home. Like, when I was doing so much stand-up and I was so hard-edged and everything, I'd be like, yeah, motherfucker. And then I'd be like, oh, that good boy, oh, that good boy. Yeah. And then you start talking that way to your friends, so you're like a mental patient. I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to go well for anybody.
Now, would you go back and do the comedy roast? That's the thing that kind of made America know who you are, and everybody said you were the best at it. But if they called and offered now,
I think when you know you're really good at something, you don't have to keep redoing it over and over and re-earning it. I think that's a sign of like, that's kind of weird. Like, you still got to prove yourself. So I think I've proved myself enough. However, that whole thing of never say never is absolutely true because there's always the idiot who does 10 farewell tours and then you're like, you douchebag, you're just trying to sell tickets, you know, share. Do you believe? It's just like, come on, girl. But I think it's something, if they ask me to roast one of my heroes, that to me, a roast is an honor. Right. So if it was a hero of mine, I might have to rethink that. So you just never know.
Is there a specific name, one that you would just jump at?
Oh, God, Stern, in a minute. Because that guy has showed such growth as a human being that he has gone from being this, you know, supposedly unfeeling shock jock, which I always identified with because I went through the same thing, being seen as a heartless insult comic, to an evolved human being who works on themselves and does so much charity work and has so much love for people and animals that I'd be like, if he asked, I'd have to run.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's amazing to hear because it seemed like you guys both made this transition at the same time without even discussing it with each other.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And I think we're both going through the same thing. He's been talking lately a lot about, should he retire? Should he not retire? I retire every 3 years, and then 2 weeks later I'm back at work because I can't sit at home.
Yeah.
I'm just not comfortable. I don't have hobbies.
Yeah.
Like, what's this with these hobbies that these people, what do you do? Like, if I'm a woodworker, kill me. I mean, I don't understand this because my life has been work. I like working. The other day, I tried playing the piano again because I used to play as a kid. I'm sitting there with that Hamilton soundtrack because there's one nice piece with a nice piano in it. Jesus Christ, I'm doing the right hand. I go, well, I'm a virtuoso. The left hand is like, bang, bang, bang. I forgot how to use my left hand. I said, the hell with this hobby. Next.
Yeah. But isn't that funny? If you were a piano player, that you'd be thinking about retiring anyway.
Absolutely.
You know, all this stuff that should be fun, we turn into something else.
Oh, I know. You know what I find fun? Sitting. That's a freaking blast. Yeah. I love it. Don't ask me to move because I'm not. Put me in a wheelchair.
Again, go to lisalampanelli.com because you could see her stand up, and Losing It is the new show, which is different for you, but it's still going to be your stage character.
Yeah, it's more of a storytelling show, but with a lot of laughs, a lot of heart, and has 3 other performers also. That's at Gramercy, November 11th. And then my workshop, the first one, is in Connecticut, and it is called Love Your Body, Feed Your Soul. And, oh, my God, we're totally going to change lives. I mean, if we don't, like, I could just retire.
Yes, you got. You do have the money, but this turn, not a lot of people would do this at the point of your career that you are. But you don't think you could go back to doing like the crowd work, Queen of Mean?
You never know.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the thing. They always say it's harder to quit a good job than a bad job because when you know in your heart that you really need to make a change, at least for now, and do something a little different. It's hard because you go, I'm leaving money on the table. I'm walking away from something, at least temporarily, that feels pretty fun. Because, dude, being up on stage an hour and a half, calling people names, you guys ought to try it sometime. Because nobody gets mad at you because they like you and they know you don't mean it. So that's why it's hard. But, again, it's a skill that's never leaving me. Thank God. It's almost like we can always go back And then who knows what that stage person will be like. I think it's cool to just evolve.
Well, it actually is, and I would just love to know the experience that the people have when they do the workshop. If you ever want to come on my radio show with some of those people,
Oh my God, I'd love
and
it.
talk about it, because I find that part of it fascinating.
Yeah.
That people that some of them were fans of yours, or some of them just going through their own thing.
Yeah.
To find out exactly what happens during this.
Oh, thank you.
Now we promised some of these folks here today that they could ask you some questions. So,
Yes, who do we have?
Hi. I know people are saying it's surprising that the Queen of Mean would now be doing something positive for like body image and self-confidence. I'm not that surprised, though, only because one thing I loved about you on your roast was that nobody laughed harder at jokes made at you than you.
Right, right.
So I wanted to know, and I know it's been a while, but is there maybe one joke or a favorite joke that sticks out that was made at your expense that was your favorite?
Dude, I'm so glad you asked that. First of all, what's your name?
Brady.
Brady. Okay, this is my favorite joke ever. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Artie Lang, but Artie Lang was a heroin addict, very large man. And at the time of the roast I did with him, I was a huge battle axe. I was 248 pounds, bad hair extensions, just trying to make something work, you know? So Artie said, and I love this joke so much because it's so clever. He goes, if I had a dime for every time somebody said, hey, aren't you Lisa Lampanelli? It was so funny. And that's why I think I never minded the jokes that were funny and well written. And I said that even in his book. I said, that's my favorite joke of all time about me. So yeah, I think it's fun because, and also you want to know a secret about the roast? Okay, see, there's a screen here. There's nothing on it. But at the roast, we're on a dais, right? And there's a teleprompter. So I could see in advance who's going to do a joke about me. So it says, my name's coming up. I read the joke. I'm like, okay, get ready to laugh. You need camera time. So I'd be like, ah! So even if it was stupid, I go, hey, at least they shot to me. You know,
Right.
It's all about getting famous and getting money.
But I know that you've changed so much because you didn't do 15 minutes on Brady's hat.
I know, and I should have. I was, what's weird is I wasn't even tempted.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe I have changed.
You have.
And I do like that you and I have the same haircut. We're both killing it. We're killing it.
And people do bring up all the time that your hair now, because you didn't do this kind of stuff with your hair before. Why?
Well, I think for me, being overweight, and they say this a lot about women who are overweight, we have to have something that we feel good about. So I used to have really beautiful extensions. A lot of women get their nails done really gorgeous if they don't feel great about the rest of themselves. And it's sort of something to kind of go, okay, I'm still trying. And it's not losing hope. It's not being that person who sits at home in the house and, you know, has despair. So then after I got the weight loss surgery, I was like, fuck this hair shit. First of all, by the way, good hair extensions, don't get them because they're like freaking $5,000.
Oh, are they really?
And I could have put that money in the bank and really freaking retired. So now I'm just like, this is great. It's so easy. And I get accused all the time of being a closet lesbian. Let me tell you something. I don't care what they say. I'm not licking it yet. Who knows? But I will tell you, the hair's easy. That's all I care about.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Hi.
Hi, what's your name?
Benham.
Hi, Benham.
Hi.
Well, I could have done 10 minutes in the old
Yeah,
days
I
on
know.
that. Wait, I just have to know, where are you from, just because of the name being interesting?
I'm from Long Island. My family's from Iran.
Okay, see, you
Yeah.
should have led with that. Okay.
The Long Island wasn't as impressive.
Yeah, that was a shift right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were mentioning about the idea of like imparting like a good message to like your audience as a comedian alongside like, you know, having the more, you know, vitriolic side, I'd say, of like comedy and stand up. Can you name some of your like contemporaries? Do you think that really like balance that line well?
Want to know what's crazy about me? I do not watch stand-up comedy.
Really?
You could name 400 comics that you know. These young kids coming up today, like the Aziz Ansari's, the Amy Schumers, who I do love Amy, that's my girl. Whitney Cummings, I love her. I love Sarah. I think Sarah balances it very well. What I think, I don't know a lot of the young kids, but what I could say is go home, go on the Google, and look for Don Rickles. Now, Don Rickles is, of course, a legend. He's dead now, which, you know, is a tragic thing, but he lived 90-some years, so F him too. This guy had such a warmth on the inside. See, that's what I think you need as an insult comic. You need that warmth on the inside for people to know you're kidding. You know, I could, in the old days, do so much material about your ancestry, about what you probably do or don't do for a living. But I tell you this, you would know that in my heart I loved you. And that's why I think you can't have a prejudice if you are that type of comic, because people see through it. Like, I always am suspicious of comics who target one group. And I'm like, you sound like you're kidding, but you really don't like that one group, do you? You know, it kind of is weird to me. So I always equally spread it out, you know, whether it was, you know, and also I included myself, because I think a lot of times people don't include themselves. I'm like, what's so great about you that you get to escape? So, you know, it's good to balance it. And that's what I think is the necessary ingredient.
We were talking about our friend Jim Norton,
Yes.
who everybody might perceive in one way, but is actually one of the most thoughtful, sweet people that you could meet.
Well, they used to say that about Rickles, too, because he's best friends with Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
And Bob Newhart had a stage persona of sweetness, and they would say to Newhart, well, Rickles is your best friend. How are you friends with that guy? And he's like, are you kidding me? I'm the asshole. He's the nice guy.
Yeah.
So it's often the opposite of what you put out there. So, you know, me being sort of the C word on stage, now I could be a freaking terrific gal off stage, and it's no surprise to me.
Yeah, not to you at all.
No.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. What's your name, honey?
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
I had the weight loss surgery 5 years ago.
Yay.
I lost 150 pounds.
Holy crap.
I can claim one person less on my income taxes now. But I still struggle every day.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, did you find days where you stress ate?
Yes.
What did you do to cope? Like
Listen.
to get over that hump?
To me, I don't think you ever get over it completely. I think there are going to be days when you're going to eat your feelings. That's what's the hardest thing, is not to eat our feelings, you know? And I think it's about then getting right back on track the same day or the very next day. Like 2 days ago, I felt a little lonely, and everybody had left my house after my mom's party, and I was like, this is so nice. And I ate 4 cookies. And I go, well, guess what? I'm human. I'm allowed. The biggest thing is to admit you're human and just go, okay, the next day I'll do better. But here's the problem. They always say no one ever changed by getting yelled at, permanently changed. But we yell at ourselves all the time. So instead of with kindness going, you know what, I screwed up a little, and have that kind voice, we would say that to a friend, we treat ourselves like the enemy. So that's the sad part to me. So instead of yelling at myself, and maybe you could try this, instead of saying, oh, why the F did I do this? I'm such an idiot, which is what we say. Just go, you know what? I'm human. Tomorrow will be better. And if it's not, the next day will. So I think just handling that from an emotional standpoint and how you talk to yourself is a good first step.
Now, she seems like she would be a target audience to come to your workshop, right?
Oh,
Somebody-
absolutely. I mean, it's a whole thing about just embracing our humanity and being like, I'm a work in progress. Like, I'm going to die, and I'm still going to be working on this. Like, I literally said to a friend of mine who lost 105 pounds, I said, dude, we're going to be 80 and still going, well, I tried not to emotionally eat today. I tried to get to the gym. I did my best. But you know what it is? It's that delicate balance of not being hard on ourselves and yelling at ourselves, but also not letting ourselves off the hook. Because there could be that, screw it, man, I deserve that cake. It's like, yeah, you do, but is that the way you want to live? It's fine if you do, I don't care. But that not letting ourselves off the hook, and that is that perfect storm, is that middle ground.
Way back heavy.
That's
when
a-
I want a snack, I'm like, nah, I don't need it.
Was that whatever tool works? I tell you what, you know, I see sometimes when I land in airports in these horrible places like Wyoming and whatnot. No offense, Wyoming, I've never even been there, but smaller places where they'll show up at the airport to have me sign pictures, like these fans, and sometimes they print out a fat picture. I'm like, hey, a-hole, there's 6 years worth of good skinny pictures. Don't be showing me no fat picture. I sign the thin ones and rip up the fat ones. But good for you. Keep at it, man. You're going to do fine if you just don't yell at yourself, but also don't cut yourself so much slack that you go, oh, my God, what did I do? Yeah.
And again, these are the kind of folks that you want to reach, right? This is the kind of message.
anyone
over
who
and over.
struggles and anyone, you'd be surprised at some people who show up and don't like themselves. Like you would look, like I'll sometimes look at women on the street and I'll be just like, oh my God, if I was just her, my life would be so perfect. Then you hear their story and you go, yeah, it's not perfect just because of the outer. I sometimes, go, wow, I compare my insides with their outsides and you can't,
Right.
And
that, I think, happens now because more of social media and everybody kind of almost running commercials for their own lives, and it looks better than it is.
I know. I will tell you point blank, everything I put on Instagram or any other social thing is absolutely true. And sometimes I don't even have makeup on. And I'm like, I don't care if it scares the kids. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to cut my head off. Sometimes if I'm really freaking horrible and ugly that day, I'll just have my dog's picture and have him talking. But you just go, just be real, be who you are. And I think people like that vulnerability more. I just can't be fake. It's just, I'm too old for that.
I just think it's been amazing growth for you. And I knew you were a sweetheart when they called you the Queen of Mean, but the fact that you're putting this out here now, the most vulnerable part of you, I think is what is truly exceptional, and that you can relate to a woman like this, or just tell this guy, get rid of the hat, and his life would turn around. His life would turn around.
What's under that hat? Let me see real quick. Let's see. All right, I get it.
Yeah.
Put it back on.
Yeah, put it.
Oh, thank you guys. You're amazing. Ron.
Lampanelli.com.
Yep.
There's workshops and stand-up going on.
Yep.
Congratulations, and I'll see you next
Oh,
time. You're
thank
the
you.
best.
Love you,
Thank
Ron.
Love you
Thanks,
too.
everybody.